Hey everybody, happy Friday. Welcome into Business Salad, where we mix up all things business for you for free. We've got a pretty good topic for you this week. We're kind of doing like a little a little help out with something that we feel like and something that's personally for me a huge thing. How to create that workspace at home, how to avoid distractions when you're working from home, things like that. I know it's something too for Katie that is as much a factor, I think, as it is for me. We do both have offices, but we're at home working a lot, especially with the way that everything's been going with COVID. So that's going to be our topic today. But first, the most important thing, Katie, how you doing? How's your week going?
Man, week is good. Week is good. I feel like there's so much going on sometimes, all of a sudden it's Friday again. You're like, how does that even happen? But I think you are so right, Steph. I mean, we are really dealing with something just across the board when it comes to our work environment. And, I love that you and I are able to talk about this because some of us, it is the first time, like for me, this is the first time that I've in any capacity worked from home. And I think that, there is so much value, and I'm so happy that I'm going to pick your brain on some of this because you have had this juggle of office and home, and you've done both for such a long time, with, between real estate and securities and this and insurance. And for me, this is the first time. So me going through some of these problems, it was the first time for me. So I'm super excited about this. And I know you've had a busy week. Everything's good for you for your Friday, right?
Everything is good. I have to tell you about this funny thing. And actually, for those of you who follow our page, you'll see I posted a little video of a float. So this is it's kind of on topic and off topic, but my kindergartner had to make a float for community helpers this week. And he decided on truck drivers because I think there were a lot of like law enforcement officers and first responders and things like that. And he decided to do like over the road truckers as our community helpers getting all of our goods to us. So we had to figure out how to make this like shoebox float.
Oh my God.
And put it like actually get motion to it. So we had it like sitting on an RC car. If you guys haven't seen that, it's just a little blip on here in our Instagram page. Go check that out. That was really fun. But I feel like I end up taking over my kids' school projects. Like, do you do that?
Well, unlike you, because you have been 4 times the amount of children you have, handled than me. So Logan being in kindergarten, we have not yet had as many projects as you have had so far. But I will say that definitely happens just in life. Just when Logan and I are doing something, I find myself trying to make sure that I'm scaling back my investment and not being that person this kind of thing. So I feel you. And I've got just 1 kid. So, the fact that you got 4, so you definitely would know that one for sure.
Yeah. And this topic that we're touching on this week it's huge for me because it is something that I struggle with. You guys will notice that a lot of the time I'm in a different location. Like my backdrop is always different because I'm constantly moving around. And a big part of that is because I'm trying to avoid my family, like not in an awful way, just in a business way, right? You have to avoid the distractions and the non-work things that are around you. So it's like, where is the quiet spot in the house going to be? Or is it at the office? Yeah. But if I go to the office, I've got worse connectivity than I do at home, which is unusual. So I have to decide what's the lesser of 2 evils. Do I want to deal with the peace and quiet and crappy connectivity? Or do I want to be at home where I've got great internet and 5 other people and dogs and a variety of other things happening?
Oh yeah.
So this is a big one for me, for sure.
The ultimate juggle too. It's like anytime I start to question my situation where I'm like, okay, how do people handle this? I have a Logan running around and I'm like, wait a minute. Some people have more than 1 child. Some people are handling it all themselves. Yes. There are a lot of situations out there. And I think even on top of that, Steph, one of the things we talked about was it's not just it's all circumstantial. Like we're all dealing with things, whether it's our first time working at home in any capacity, or whether it's a part-time at home, part-time at the office. Some have kids, some don't have kids, but in all cases, we are all adjusting to that to some degree or another. And there are definitely ways to be more productive than not. And that's something that I think if you want to be successful working at home, we have to figure out. I mean, what are some of the big distractions or things that you kind of see going on with you? I mean, what do you see just on the regular basis?
So it's definitely for me, and I'm very lucky to have Ron. I know that there are people who are doing this completely solo, and so much respect to you guys because I could not do it without my right hand, my husband. He takes a lot of that burden off of me. Like, when we're doing things like this or our meetings for work or whatever the case may be. But honestly, for me, the biggest thing, it is the kids, and specifically the two little boys. For those of you that don't know, we both have Logans.
Mhm.
Hers is 6, mine is 14. So if you hear us both throwing Logan around, that's what we're talking about. Not same kid.
Yes, yes, indeed.
For me, it is the 4 and the 6-year-old are constantly fighting, and they always have to be where you are. So it's like I have an office space set up in the master bedroom, and I will close the door, and I have like this giant 2x2 chalkboard that I write, like meeting in progress, and I set it outside the door and lock the door. Not a deterrent. That doesn't help. Like they just come like on the door, banging on the door, and mom this and mom that, and poor Ron always trying to corral them. But it's definitely the fighting, the screaming,
Yeah.
because they're constantly at each other's throats. And then now the puppy. And actually, I'm downstairs right now in my dining area
Yes.
for this particular show, and the puppy's asleep. So we're good there. But it's like, where am I going to go to get away from it? So for me, that's really the biggest thing is the little kids. Like, it's so much.
For sure. And I think, one of the things that for me, it was an adjustment because there was a certain number of weeks where we were at home, we were not at the office. And I would run into a situation where Logan was not used to that. I mean, he's always been in daycare and school. And so he would just be used to walking in, and he's not used to, I'm in the middle of a meeting, or I'm presenting, or whatever's going on. And one of the things that I started to realize, especially during Zoom meetings, I think I told this to you, is that you have to figure out, how can I still maintain some level of, professional conversation when this is happening at the same time? And I kind of let away one of the little secrets there is that I would mute myself, cover my mouth like this, and I would literally be yelling, Logan, you need to leave the room right now. And no, pretty sure, I think there's quite a few moms out there who have done that, but it's just, or you kind of put your camera and audio off and you start screaming. But I think that, we've all had to figure out how do we adjust, and what are some of those things. And one of the things that you and I were talking about when we were sort of brainstorming, and it's like there's so many issues that come up, so many distractions, so many categories, and I sort of jotted some stuff down. I wanted to share some of it and really pick your brain on it specifically because like I said, you have been really dealing with such a bigger juggle than I have for such a long time, and it was a big adjustment for me, not just sort of the kiddo being at home and working, but also just how to really feel like I'm at work when I'm at home. And it was a big mind switch for me,
Mm-hmm.
So I think one of the things, and I love your answer on this, but one of the things that I saw kind of coming up as I was seeing what are a lot of people dealing with when it comes to the work environment being at home. And one of the things that consistently came up as sort of tips, and you got to think about this and do this, is what is that work environment at home? And, like some of the obvious things like, try not to work in bed, or, things like this. But I love that one of the things you did was when it comes to that work environment, whether it's some people might be lucky enough where there is a room for this. Some people, it might be finding a space in their home for their work environment to where that is where they work. And Steph, you are so clutch to be able to say, you know what, some situations I am here. That's my work environment. Sometimes I'm over here. And I think that doing that is such a smart way to handle it, because you do have quite a few different areas that I'll talk with you, and you'll be in different places. Yeah. Is it what kind of guides that? Where the people are, where the other humans are? What guides that for you?
Yes, it's definitely where the bulk of the conundrum is happening in the house, because I've got, the two teenagers in high school, and for the most part, they actually do their schooling right where I'm sitting now, which is because we have like this massive dining table. So they will work on either side of the dining table. But they're like, actually, my daughter is here with me now, but she's quiet enough that it doesn't really matter what I'm doing. We're good to be in the same room. Same thing with my older son. But the little boys, where are the little boys? And where can Ron keep them the happiest for the longest? If it's going to be upstairs and they're playing tracks or whatever the case may be with the Hot Wheels, yeah. Mom's down here. If they be
Absolutely.
down here and they're chilling, watching a movie, mom's going upstairs. So it's definitely all about where are the people and how do I get away from them?
That is the theme. Get
That
away
is,
from the people. I love it for work. Love them, but for
yes,
work. I think that one of the things, and we actually had a couple people reach out to us about this, was, with so much working at home and just all of these distractions that happen, how do people organize their day? How do they do that? And one thing about you, and I will say in some ways this is unique because not everybody are morning people, but one of the ways that I know that something that you do is you're a heck of an early bird, and it allows you to get a lot of things done at a time when people are sleeping. What have you always been an early bird? Do you find yourself being productive early in the morning? How does kind of your wake up routine help with your work?
yes. So a big part of it for me is having those few quiet hours before all of the ruckus starts where I can kind of, I'm that person where when I wake up, I have to have quiet time, just me and my coffee, before the day starts. And I can kind of collect my thoughts. I mentally plan out what's going to happen during the day if I go over my planner or whatever the case may be. But, and this is kind of odd. I don't go into my email until my working hours starts. I know that
Yeah,
that's strange, but it's kind of like a thing where I will, unless it's something that is like super urgent, because you can see the notifications on your phone, but most things can wait. And
absolutely.
honestly, it's like, don't give that time in the morning to everybody else who's going to have that time from you all during your workday. If it's absolutely necessary because you don't have any other time to do that, then definitely work during those early hours or the late hours, because there are a lot of people who are like the late hour people.
Yeah.
But definitely that early time for me is crucial to just getting my mind straight. And honestly, a little secret for me is with my emails, I will type them out and just schedule them to send the next day.
That's
So,
good.
in the morning. And then that way I'm not spending my morning trying to catch up on everything that I could have done the night before or whatever the
Absolutely.
case may be.
Well, and I think you hit something there too when you say that, you're an early bird. You have that kind of quiet time in the
Mhm.
morning, and that same thing can pertain to people that maybe they are more of a night owl. They put the kids to bed and then they get that quiet time. And I think so much of it depends on the person and taking a look at your day and your situation and saying, where do I fit things in? How does that work? I think that one thing, whether you're a person that lives by a schedule or you're a checklist person, I think in both cases, if you are dealing with a home environment and family and all these things, give yourself a little bit of grace, I think is part of it. But something I've seen too is people that say, make sure to schedule your breaks or schedule a lunch in there. Make sure that you're doing these things so you're keeping yourself moving in the right way. And I know sometimes we tend to right through lunch and that happens. So it's like, how do we rein that in, the scheduling and,
Yeah.
I was years and years and years ago, I was a lifeguard, and this sort of like scheduling got in my head where we look at our schedule for the week and it would be like, oh, I've got a split shift, right? Like I've got a morning, I had a 5 a.m. shift and then I had an evening shift. And I think that sometimes depending on your job, it's okay to say, you know what? I need to be able to give myself a little bit of a split
Yeah.
shift for life, right? And,
Yeah.
for me, I've had to move some things because of Logan where I've said I normally would work until let's say 5 or 6 and carry on or whatever I'm doing. But maybe if I'm going to have to fit something in, I tell myself I'm going to do a split shift. I'm getting this done before this time and I'm getting this done after. And I think, really you have to figure out what works for you. And at the end of the day, are we being productive? Are we getting things done that we need to get done? And if you look at ourselves and say, I'm not, well, then we probably got to tweak some things, right? So, yeah.
Right. And I love when you say give yourself some grace. Like, do not literally, I think you can hear the little boys right now. And I'm sure that my 14-year-old amazing son is going to help me out to keep them from coming down here and having a cat fight while I'm doing this. But
Life.
if you give yourself some grace, don't be afraid to be malleable. Be flexible. It's okay. If something has to move, then something has to move. It's great to set a schedule. Absolutely set that schedule. Know what your goals are for the day. Figure out how best to get them done. But life happens and you can't be so hard on yourself. So absolutely, I think that's really, really key. I've got some girls who are not necessarily, they don't have kids at home with them, but they are working from home. And now, because it is so much more common because of the pandemic, people working from home, I think there's less of a, I don't want to say a stigma attached to it, but you know, before, I think when you said, oh yes, I've got a home-based business, people who were traditionally more in like that office setting, or maybe even those who were retired and were more accustomed to an office setting, would get to that point where they were like, well, like, are you really working? And they think that they can just stop by anytime because you're not actually doing something, and you do have to set those office hours, even when you don't have kids, because you've got people, and you know, especially in the very friendly Southern community, you know, you do a lot of pop-bys, and people will show up at your door to say hi. Don't be afraid to say, I'm sorry, I'm at work. These are my office hours. Let's, you know, set something up for outside of those hours, or if it's work related, let's set an appointment. Absolutely. Don't be afraid to be strict with that stuff. I know it's tough, but eventually you have to teach people how to treat you. Eventually they're going to get it. I agree. You know? 100%. Yeah.
No, I think that's so important. And, you know, one of the things I found myself doing, because as someone who has always worked at an office, that's how I functioned. As soon as I got in my home environment, it was almost like I was so disoriented. It sort of became like, okay, well, so what do I wear to work? No one's going to see me. And then everyone knows the Zoom game of like, all right, hey, I am dressed up here and I am in pajama bottom, you know? And so it kind of became this thing where I sort of had to say, okay, you know, when you sort of let that slide too much, eventually it starts to get to the point where we're like, okay, I woke up in my pajamas. Am I going to put on different pajamas? Am I going to put on comfy clothes? You know, and it's almost like, should I put my makeup on? Like, you get to a point where you're like, depending on what you do. I mean, Steph, obviously you and I deal with people. So for the sake of everybody else, I'm putting some makeup on and combing my hair. But I mean, you know, when it comes down to it, it's like, you know, there is something, if you're not someone that's maybe dealing with another person or in a sales environment or a coaching environment, you might be someone that needs to say, okay, I need to feel like I'm at work. You know, I need to say, this is when I'm starting, and this is when I turn the lights on for my business, and this is when I'm putting on my clothes. Doesn't mean to be a suit, right? But just something to start to feel like, how do you differentiate working time from not working? And I think when you bleed that together too much, it starts to really interfere with the results. And I think that's something we run into. But
look good, feel good.
Yeah, absolutely. I think so many people are dealing with this right now, right? And have been for a while. So
yeah. And I think it was, for all you sports fans out there, you can correct me, I'm pretty sure it was Deion Sanders who said, you know, look good, feel good, play good, pay good, eat good, and that's good. You know, so you really have to get into that mindset.
Yeah.
Because even I do the same thing. Like, I will start to slack and I'm like, oh, do I really have to curl my hair today? Or whatever the case may be. And those who work with me know I'm generally pretty casual anyway. I wear, you know, Toms or Bobs and a pair of jeans and a graphic t-shirt, usually blazer sometimes. But still, it's like just getting up, even if I'm not going to be dressed that fancy, like you said, doing my makeup, doing my hair, make myself feel good. In the morning when I've got that time to myself, doing a little bit of a workout to get my body awake and going and moving and trying to eat well.
Right. Trying to always figure that balance out. You know, it's funny. I think so many times, like, we all have in our mind what like a morning routine is. And I think that, you know, some people think, oh, a morning routine means you have to do this, or you got to go for a 10-mile run, no, it doesn't. Like, everybody's morning routine like, no, everybody's morning routine is different for themselves. You know, some people, that morning routine might be that piece of waking up, and for you, like having that quiet and having that cup of coffee and kind of getting in that headspace. And for someone else, it might be going for a walk or reading something, or, you know, but just those little routines in the morning to start your day. And I know one of the things for me that is a very big part of my routine, and it's so simple, but it helps me when I'm working at home, especially, is when I wake up and I've kind of kicked off my routine, is I take a second and I say, what do I have to get done today? And I just put it on paper and I just write it out. And sometimes just getting it out of my brain, because I swear, if I don't do that, this stuff is just sitting in there. And half the time I have this list and there's sort of two two categories. It's like work stuff and then other stuff, right? So I've got all my work list, and then I'm like, oh God, I need to remember to switch out the laundry, and I need to, and I am convinced that if I don't put that on paper, I am going to be thinking about that subconsciously, and it's going to slow me down. So I think writing things down and kind of getting it out of our brain onto paper. So we're like, all right. And to me, I'm a big checklister. I love crossing stuff off and then being able to be like, all right, I didn't get this done, but I'm moving it here. And it just kind of helps me feel accomplished when I'm meeting, which I think is huge.
Yeah. And don't be afraid to prioritize.
Totally.
You know, if you've got that one thing that has to get done today, that one client that you have to reach out to today, make sure that gets done. Absolutely. You know, great, you did the most important thing. The other stuff, that's important too, but could it potentially wait until tomorrow if necessary? Yes, good. You know, but you get the most important things done.
100%.
That was plastic just jumped off the table.
My gosh. See, we were ready for the dogs running. Like, this is totally planned just so you guys could see what real life is like. See, I actually am at the office right now, but if I was at home, I'd definitely be yelling at a dog or something would be going on. So, but I think that this is good to think about for sure. So.
And it's fun. And remember that when you're working from home and you're doing this and you're dealing with clients, your clients are dealing with the same things. Like, a lot of them are working from home right now. I've got one client. Every time we get on a Zoom call together, somebody comes to her door, like without fail. It's hilarious. And so her dogs will go crazy. And it's just, you just got to go with it. Like you said, give yourself some grace, give those around you some grace. And we're all just trying to get through this craziness.
Absolutely. I agree. Well, I think that's awesome. And hopefully we can get some of these things together and kind of put it up there on some of our social media so you guys can see some of that. I mean, some of it is obvious and some of it is good reminders, right? So I think getting in front of us is good. So.
Yeah. And, you know, you guys out there in Facebook land or wherever you're watching from, if you've got a situation at home that is a little bit more unique and you would like some help troubleshooting that situation to maybe increase your productivity or just create that space within your home and that time for you, reach out to us. You can leave it in the comments of this video, and then not only we can, you know, try to help you troubleshoot that, but so can the rest of the viewership. Or if you're more comfortable sending us a direct message, go ahead and do that, because that's what we're here for. So we're here to help you guys. Anything you need, let us know. And I think that's all I've got. You know, I did have one more thing. And for those of you that are homeschooling, because so many people are doing that right now, there was, when my bigger kids were first starting out, because this is our 12th year doing this, but I had, So what I used to do is I had a smock, and when it was school time, I put the smock on, and that was teacher mom. And so they had totally different attitudes when it was teacher mom, because teacher mom had the ability to put up with way less shit than regular mom.
For sure.
You know, for those of you that are doing that at home, I do offer that as kind of a suggestion. And it's especially for the younger kids, it's a visual cue. This is work time. That's teacher mom. We got to buckle down. We're not going to be doing other frivolous items and things like that. And don't forget to give them as many breaks as you give yourself, or give yourself as many breaks as you give them. However it needs to go. Don't kill yourself.
We'll get through it. It's good. We're going to be better because of it. For sure. I love it. Well, thank you, Steph.
Absolutely.
Always a pleasure.
And so thanks so much, everybody, for joining us today on Business Salad and for joining us in the business of business. Be sure to check us out on social. We are on Instagram at Biz Salad Show. We're also on YouTube under Business Salad. So come join us, and we'll see you again next Friday. Can't wait.
Love it.
Bye, everybody.
Bye, guys.